Welcome, Ms Legalista here, aka Attorney Sheila, talking to you about Tiger Woods and Erica Herman, his ex girlfriend, who is now suing him basically because he kicked her out of the house down in Florida. Let's get started so we can talk about what's going on with this and maybe how they both could have done a better job of protecting their interests.
Yeah.
My fan on my computer is going non-stop because I've got so much running off of this. I've now got me another microphone, and thanks to, I wish I could remember the guy's name who was just like, I need for you to do better audio. But now I'm concerned it's going to be picking up this fan from my computer because maybe it's that good. Let's go back here just to sort of bring you up to speed about Tiger Woods and his ex girlfriend, Erica Herman. Now, they have been together for 6 years, 6 years. And from what I've been reading, it appears to have been a pretty good family relationship. The mother of his children appeared to be okay with her. So things that could have been a little challenging appeared to be okay. There were pictures of them on the internet together. Not a whole lot. It doesn't appear that she has a really big social platform out there, but 6 years they were together. She is now saying that they had this oral tenancy agreement that she could stay in the residence for 11 years. She has now filed a complaint in the state of Florida saying that he violated the Florida Residential Landlord Tenant Act by kicking her out of the house, essentially. And in one of the documents, she actually referred to it as trickery, that there was somehow this plan that she was going to take this vacation, had her pack her bags, and then after she was out, they told her she couldn't come back. Now, the complaint doesn't go into a whole lot of detail here. I'm a little confused. Actually, I should backtrack. I'm a lot confused. I understand that there was an NDA, a non disclosure agreement in place. This may be why the complaint has so little information in it. Typically, you want to include enough information so that when you go in the court, the other party isn't already filing a motion to dismiss because the other party is saying, hey, you're not really alleging enough facts here. There's nothing really here. There's no contract. There was never any sort of agreement. The ownership of the house is actually under this trust, and Tiger just has a life estate. So there are all of these issues that when I was taking a look at this, it just didn't feel like it was enough. But if you sort of place this in the context of she had to keep her mouth closed because she had signed an NDA, a non disclosure agreement, then that might explain why so much of this information is missing. Now, the NDA is a whole nother challenge that the parties are going to be facing. I'm not going to be talking about that a lot here. I want to talk about this whole idea of cohabitation and cohabitation agreements. Could they both have done a better job of looking out for themselves in the very beginning? Let me first just pull you up to speed on just some of what's being said out here, just to sort of give you some context in terms of what's going on. So, just putting in Tiger Woods and Erica Herman, you can see, what's been going on. I think at this point, maybe I know of at least three filings. So there may be four now because it sounds like Tiger has now filed an additional document. So we have here Business Insider reporting Tiger Woods' NDA with Erica Herman shows his obsession with privacy. If you're a celebrity, I don't know that this is necessarily an obsession, as it may be a concern about number one, your brand and your image. Although some people would question other things that he has done that has hurt his own brand and image. But number two, and most importantly, is he's a father and he has two children. So he may very well be really concerned now that they're much older about information that they may get about what's going on. Remember, Ms. Herman lived with them for quite a while, 6 years. That is a long time. You start to build a relationship with his children. And so, yes, there could be some concern here about family information getting out, what he does with his children, those interactions. So, is this an obsession? I don't necessarily think so. He's a celebrity. He knows that every little thing about him is worth money to the tabloids. CBS News reporting jilted ex girlfriend Tiger Woods' lawyers respond to Erica Herman's complaint. And this, like I said, this just came out. I haven't reviewed this document yet, but it sounds like that is the language that they're using. It says Tiger Woods' attorneys in two separate complaints involving golf star ask the court. And let's click on this just to see what it says here. All right. Attorneys in two separate complaints involving golf star asked court to compel ex-girlfriend to enter arbitration. Well, that was one of the ones that we had already known about. But let me go back and see what else we have going on here. And we have Tiger Woods says Erica Herman is not a sexual abuse victim. This was one of the things that came up in the documents regarding the NDA. So I'm not going to go a whole lot into that. But what I do now want to focus on is this idea of cohabitation and where we are in this country in regards to what that looks like. So, this is coming out of Pew Research Center, and this study is actually a little old. It's 2023 now. This study was done, I believe, in 2019, but we can go with some of the overall themes that this article is presenting. Of course, we've got some other interesting things there over to the right. But one of the first things it says is as marriage rates have declined, the share of US adults who have ever lived with an unmarried partner has risen. Well, there you go. More people are cohabitating. Has there been an increase in cohabitation agreements? I don't know. A larger share. That's number one. Number two, most Americans, 69%, say cohabitation is acceptable, even if a couple doesn't plan to get married. Now, one of the things that didn't really come up in the documents that Ms. Herman filed were any was any information regarding whether there was any sort of commitment like that, whether there were conversations like that. And here's the thing, she probably felt like she couldn't talk about any of those things. Why? Because of the non disclosure agreement. So this NDA really limited a lot of what she could say. Do we know whether they ever even discussed getting married? Was there a purchase of a ring? Did they look at rings? They've been together for 6 years. I can imagine that at some point in time, the question probably came up, are we going to continue on this path or do we want to do something more formal and more lasting and something that represents the kind of relationship that we want to have? So you can see from the graph there, it says 69% say that it's acceptable for an unmarried couple to live together even if they don't plan to get married. And then another 16% say only if they plan to get married. That's a huge jump. And then 14% say it's never acceptable. So look at that, 69%. 69%. That is a lot of people who say, oh, yeah, go ahead, do your thing. Most people don't care anymore. It says, while most Americans say cohabitation is acceptable, many see societal benefits in married. Because here's the other thing. What if you've already got kids together? You know, then it becomes, okay, maybe let's start down this path. There are a lot of reasons why people live together. Number three, married adults have higher levels of relationship satisfaction and trust than those living with a partner. So it says, yeah, that's one of the key elements that came out of this. 4, many cohabitating adults see living together as a step toward marriage. Maybe they're thinking, okay, trial marriage. Can I live with this person before I really sign all the paperwork, walk down the aisle, and really make that formal commitment? I guess they see it as trying it out. We want to go try on a pair of shoes. We're going to go try on a marriage. About two-thirds of married adults, 66%, who lived with their spouse before they were married, say they saw cohabitation as a step toward marriage. All right, number 5, about 4 in 10 cohabitating adults cite finances and convenience as major reasons they move in with a partner. So that's something people are thinking about. It says cohabitating women are more likely than cohabitating men to say love and wanting to have children someday were major reasons why they moved in with a partner. 6, many non engaged cohabitors who want to get married someday cite finances as a reason why they're not engaged or married. And so it could be that it just costs more today to do that. 7, most Americans favor allowing unmarried couples to have the same legal rights as married couples. Now, that's a huge difference. Think about this. All of the benefits under the law that you get because you're married versus not having signed that legal piece of paper, but you're taking a lot of formal steps to live together. And this, let's see how this breaks down. Roughly two-thirds of adults, 65%, say they favor allowing unmarried couples to enter into legal agreements, maybe like civil unions, that would give them the same rights as married couples. We're talking about things like health insurance, inheritance or tax benefits, while 34% oppose this. Democrats and others who lean toward the Democratic Party are far more likely than Republicans and Republican leaners to favor allowing these types of legal agreements for unmarried couples. It says about three-quarters of Democrats favor it. And by contrast, Republicans are evenly split, 50% favor, 49% oppose. And again, this is from 2019. It's, a few years later, so things may have changed a little when it comes to this. But let's go back and talk about Tiger Woods and Erica Herman. Now, as I said before, she was stating that there was this oral agreement for 11 years. Now, she signed this non disclosure agreement, which has an arbitration provision in it. So on Tiger's side, they're saying, well, any issues that you have now, they have to go to arbitration. And you can't really disclose anything because you signed this non-disclosure agreement. So you can't be all out in the public talking about our private relationship. But let's move away from that for a second and just think about how, from a practical sense, a cohabitation agreement might have protected both of them. A lot of times, we're familiar with prenups. We're like, okay, yes, who gets the house? Who gets the bills? How do we split the owed taxes and all of these sorts of things? Do you want your maiden name back or not? These are some of the things that come up. But even when you're cohabitating, think about it for a second. You're together for 6 years. And let's take Tiger and his fancy estate out of the picture for a second. Let's just take your regular couple down the street that maybe they not only rent a property for a while, maybe they even purchase a property together as joint tenants or as tenants in common. Are they going to have right of survivorship or not? Is their portion of it, if one of them passes, going to go to the other party, or is it going to go to their survivors? So these are some things to think about if you're living in a space together, if you're purchasing something together. But suppose you go, well, yeah, Attorney Sheila, we aren't necessarily out here buying houses as much with our partners that we're not married to yet. We're usually renting these spaces. Well, are you both on the lease? Typically, that's the case, but sometimes not. Sometimes we sneak that partner on in They move in those last 6 months of the lease, and we never inform the landlord, even though our lease agreement says that we should. We never say anything. We just move them on in, and now both of us are there. And so if something happens, maybe a month into the move, and the person who actually is on the lease wants to kick you out, well, one of the first things that person is going to point to is say, hey, you aren't on the lease. And I'm just going to let the landlord know. And maybe it may cause issues for both of you. But what about when it's a situation where one party has a house and the other party is moving in? Just imagine being kicked out after living there for a few years and realizing you've now got to hire somebody to move your property out. You have to find a new space to live. Is your credit in a place where you can do that? Have you saved up enough money to put down the security deposit to pay for the move, deposits on utilities or any other things that you may need to cover? Are you ready? Are you prepared? In a cohabitation agreement, you can talk about a lot of these issues. Everything from who has to leave to who gets the dog. Think about it. If you've been together for a while, you might have gotten animals that you love. You might have opened accounts together in both of your names. And so now you're both liable for that. Who's going to pay for that? What does that look like? So, those are some of the things that can be broken down in this sort of cohabitation agreement. What's all of this going to look like when not just we're together, but when we walk away? It's the same thing that I tell business owners when they come to me and it's two of them and they're just like, hey, we want to start this business together. And I'm just like, that's great. But what's this going to look like if you're not together anymore? Who's going to be the party that wants to walk away? And then what happens to the company? What if one party wants to sell? So people have to talk through a lot of what ifs. And it's probably one of those things people should do when they're cohabitating. And most people don't. They do not think about it. What if things fall apart? What happens to this cohabitation arrangement? People just don't. So, this is probably one of those things where he should have sat down and talked to his attorney. She should have sat down and talked to an attorney when she was having that NDA reviewed and should have said, hey, I'm going to be living with him. What about a cohabitation agreement? Or maybe her attorney should have mentioned that to her, because that would have been the time to discuss it. When he says, hey, do you want to move in, Erica? And Erica goes, yes, Tiger, I'd love to move in. And Tiger goes, hey, but I also need you to sign this NDA that has this arbitration agreement in it. And she goes, well, okay, I'll do that. At the time, people just aren't thinking it all the way through about what what happens, what it looks like if things go wrong. So if you're in this situation, whether it's a business or whether it's a personal relationship, one of the things that you want to think about is, what's the agreement I want to have in place if things, I don't want to say mess up, break up, fall apart, but that's essentially what happens. Okay. If we need to walk away, one of us or the whichever one, if there's no longer this business relationship or this personal relationship, what kind of agreement do we have in place that discusses what the breakup looks like? We're used to having prenups, we're used to hearing about those. We need to be talking a little bit more about cohabitation agreements also. All right, so that's it. Hope you're a little bit more up to speed in this case and maybe something that they could have done differently. Go ahead and give the video a thumbs up, and we'll keep watching this case. So don't forget to subscribe. Mwah. Peace.